this thing.
Will you turn that thing off? What?
Why so early?
Because we're in the middle of a desert. We aren't going to get very far once that blazing sun gets overhead.
In 1987, Mel Brooks released a sci-fi parody critics brushed off as lazy, juvenile, and disposable. Spaceballs made some money, got mixed reviews, and looked like it was headed straight for the VHS bargain bin. And then something weird happened. It didn't fade away. It grew. People kept quoting it, rewatching it, catching jokes they were too young to understand the first time. What started as a dumb spoof slowly became one of the most influential comedies of its era. Today, nearly 40 years later, Spaceballs is taught in film classes, referenced in marketing textbooks, and in the most Spaceballs twist possible, it's officially getting a sequel. So the question is, what did we all miss? What was hiding in plain sight that turned this movie into a cult legend? I found 17 weird, overlooked details, from on-set chaos to jokes that accidentally predicted the future. And by the end, you'll never watch Spaceballs the same way again. Let's start with what was actually happening on set, because it was absolute madness. Number 17. The jam scene that destroyed cameras. You remember the radar jam scene, right? Dark Helmet's crew reports that the radar's been jammed, and then the screen gets covered in literal raspberry jam. It's a stupid visual pun. Takes 5 seconds, you laugh, you move on. Here's what you didn't know. That scene used around 50 gallons of real raspberry preserves fired through compressed air cannons at high velocity. The jam cost thousands of dollars. It destroyed multiple cameras because the sticky mess got into the lenses and mechanisms. And the cleanup took days. We're talking jam in every crevice of the set, in the equipment, in people's hair, everywhere. That's not a visual effect. That's not some clever editing trick. That's Mel Brooks saying, "We're doing this for real, and I don't care what it costs." That's a $2,400 jam joke that ruined cameras just to make you groan at a pun, and that's the energy of this entire production. Number 16.
Now that I have my coffee, I'm ready to watch Radar.
Dark Helmet's prank war. Speaking of that energy, Rick Moranis spent hours at a time wearing Dark Helmet's giant helmet. It was heavy, it was hot, it was claustrophobic, and the crew saw an opportunity. They turned that helmet into the target of an escalating prank war. It started simple. Someone would drop confetti inside before a take. Then it got more elaborate. Crew members started hiding live animals in there. They rigged hidden speakers to play random sounds. One day, somebody filled the entire thing with shaving cream. The helmet wasn't just a prop, it became this daily ritual, this morale boost for the crew, and Moranis, to his credit, just rolled with it. Every time he put that thing on, he had no idea what was waiting for him. That's the kind of set culture you just don't get anymore. Everyone was in on the joke. Everyone was committed to the bit. Number 15.
Yeah, the guy digs me. Hey, what's wrong with this guy?
John Hurt's chestburster callback. Now the diner scene, you know the one I'm talking about. A guy at the counter suddenly starts convulsing, and an alien bursts out of his chest, except this alien is wearing a tiny top hat and cane, and it starts singing "Hello, My Baby" like a Looney Tunes character. Here's the detail that makes this scene legendary. The actor playing the victim was John Hurt, the same guy who played Kane in Alien back in 1979. Mel Brooks tracked him down specifically to recreate his own death scene as a parody. Think about that for a second. Brooks didn't just reference Alien, he got the actual guy, put him through the same trauma again, and then turned it into a musical number. That's not just a joke. That's a deep-cut crossover that only works if you know the original. And if you were a sci-fi fan in 1987, that moment was absolutely perfect. It's the kind of casting that shows how much Brooks respected the source material even while he was roasting it. Number 14. Barf's practical nightmare. Let's talk about John Candy for a second. He played Barf, the Mog, half man, half dog. That costume wasn't CGI, it wasn't even animatronics in the modern sense. It was a full practical suit with puppeteers hidden inside and around Candy, operating the ears, the tail, the facial features all in real time. Candy had to act while coordinating with multiple people pulling levers and strings. The suit was sweltering. The timing was brutal. One wrong move, and the whole illusion falls apart. And yet, somehow, Candy made it look effortless. That's old school filmmaking. That's why the character still holds up today when you watch it. There's a weight to it, a physicality that you can't fake with computers. Number 13.
Now you hear this, whoever you are.
Dot Matrix's Metal Prison. And then there's Dot Matrix. The C-3PO parody, voiced by Joan Rivers, was played by actress Laureen Yarnell in a full chrome suit that weighed over 30 pounds. She had limited visibility. The suit was so rigid she could barely move. She spent hours in that thing doing take after take while Joan Rivers recorded the voice separately in a booth somewhere. The two performances were stitched together in post-production. It's one of those things where you watch the movie and you don't think about it. The character just works. But behind the scenes, it was one of the most physically punishing roles on set. Yarnell was basically doing mime work in a metal oven while trying to hit comedic timing she couldn't even hear. That's the level of commitment we're talking about. Every stupid joke, every throwaway gag, there were real people suffering for the bit. And that's part of why the movie has this texture, this tangible quality that modern comedies sometimes lack. But the chaos on set is only half the story. Because if you actually pay attention while you're watching Spaceballs, there's stuff hiding in the background that most people never catch. Number 12. The Millennium Falcon cameo. Okay, this one's famous now, but most people still miss it on their first watch. When Lone Star and Barf pull up to the space diner, look at the parking lot. In the background, parked next to the other ships, is the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. This wasn't some rogue animator sneaking it in. This was an official Easter egg approved by George Lucas himself. Lucas gave Brooks permission to parody Star Wars, but he had one condition: no Spaceballs merchandise that could compete with Star Wars toys. So Brooks agreed. And then in the most Mel Brooks move ever, he made the entire plot of the movie about mocking merchandise. The Millennium Falcon cameo was a thank you, a little nod to Lucas, and then Brooks turned around and built an entire satirical universe around the thing Lucas wouldn't let him do. Number 11.
Where the real money from the movie is made.
The merchandising prophecy, which brings us to the merchandising scene. Spaceballs, the flamethrower, the kids love this one. That scene where Yogurt shows off all the Spaceballs merch wasn't just a joke, it was a prophecy. Today, that scene is used in marketing classes and business schools as an example of self-aware product placement. Some analysts argue that Brooks accidentally invented a new style of anti-advertising, advertising that mocks itself so hard that people actually want the fake products. And here's the kicker: after the movie came out, fans demanded real Spaceballs merch. The parody created its own market. Brooks was so far ahead of the curve that he predicted the entire modern IP merchandising machine and roasted it before it even fully existed. That's not just comedy. That's cultural commentary disguised as a flamethrower gag. Number 10.
Pizza the Hut!
Pizza, the Hut's disgusting reality. Let's talk about Pizza the Hut for a second, because this is disgusting. Pizza the Hut, the grotesque Jabba parody, was a practical puppet made of real pizza dough, cheese, and toppings. It was operated by puppeteers and had to be rebuilt multiple times because the pizza would spoil, melt under the stage lights, or just fall apart. The smell on set was reportedly awful. Rotting cheese, hot dough, pepperoni baking under lights for hours. The crew hated it, but it looked absolutely disgusting on camera, which was exactly the point. That's commitment to a bit. That's choosing to make everyone miserable for the sake of a 5-minute scene with a character named Pizza the Hut. Number 9.
Yes, that.
The Schwartz rings were just flashlights. Now the Schwartz, the Force parody, is wielded through glowing rings instead of lightsabers. And if you look closely during the final duel, the rings are clearly just flashlights with colored gels taped on. This wasn't a budget issue. This was intentional. Brooks wanted the Schwartz to look cheap and ridiculous because the whole point was that it's a silly, mystical power in a universe that doesn't take itself seriously. The joke is in the craft is in the joke. It's this perfect circle of self-aware comedy. Number 8. The ludicrous speed practical effect. And then there's the ludicrous speed effect. When the ship goes to ludicrous speed, everyone's faces stretch and distort. That wasn't CGI. It was practical makeup prosthetics and high-speed photography combined with actors literally pulling their own faces back with hidden wires. It's a 5-second gag that took hours to set up. And it's still one of the most memorable visuals in the movie. But here's where things get really interesting. Because Spaceballs didn't just make people laugh. It accidentally shaped culture in ways nobody saw coming. Number 7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
That's amazing. I've got the same combination on my luggage.
The password that ended up in textbooks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the kind of thing an idiot would have on his luggage. That line is now in cybersecurity textbooks. It's used in corporate training videos. It's referenced in password security manuals and IT onboarding sessions worldwide. A throwaway joke in a 1987 parody became one of the most widely cited examples of bad password hygiene in the digital age. Mel Brooks accidentally created a teaching tool that's been used for decades. And the best part? The joke still lands because people still use passwords like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The movie mocked something that hadn't even become a widespread problem yet, and then the world caught up to the joke. Number 6.
Princess in your future. Now, if you want to get back there before she back...
Yogurt in academic papers. Here's something even wilder. The character of Yogurt and the Schwartz mythology have been discussed in academic conferences and film studies courses. Why? Because they're a parody of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and the way modern franchises turn mythology into consumer products. Yogurt literally sells the Schwartz as merch while playing the role of the wise mentor. It's a joke about how we commodify spirituality and myth in pop culture, and film scholars love it. There are actual essays analyzing Spaceballs as a critique of late-stage capitalism and franchise filmmaking. Mel Brooks made a fart joke movie that ended up in college syllabi. Number 5. The fourth wall demolition. Let's talk about the fourth wall for a second, because Spaceballs doesn't just break it, it demolishes it. Characters watch the movie within the movie to figure out what happens next. They fast forward through their own scenes, they acknowledge the camera, they comment on the plot in real time. At the time, this was seen as goofy and self-indulgent. But now, it's recognized as a precursor to the kind of meta, self-aware humor that dominates modern comedy. Shows like Community, Rick and Morty, Deadpool, they all owe a debt to Spaceballs' reality-breaking gags. Brooks was doing postmodern comedy before it had a name. Number 4.
To go through with this?
I'm sorry, my dear. You have to.
The parody blueprint. And the influence goes even deeper. Spaceballs set the template for every genre parody that came after it. The rapid-fire joke structure, the mix of visual gags, wordplay, and pop culture references, the willingness to be stupid and smart at the same time. Without Spaceballs, you don't get Galaxy Quest, you don't get the genre-aware humor in Kung Fu Panda, you don't get the self-referential style of modern animated comedies. It's not just a cult classic, it's a blueprint that's been copied and remixed for almost 40 years. But here's the thing, and this is important, Spaceballs is also a time capsule, and not everything in that capsule has aged perfectly. Number 3.
What are you doing? No questions, Dot. Get in.
The freedom of 80s comedy. Let's be honest. Spaceballs is full of dumb jokes, fart jokes, puns, slapstick, innuendo. Some of it's dated, some of it's groan-worthy. Some of it feels awkward now in ways it probably didn't in 1987. But here's the thing, that was the freedom of 80s comedy. You could be silly without being cynical. You could make a movie that was just fun. No extended universe. No setup for sequels. No post-credit scenes teasing the next installment. Just 90 minutes of stupid entertainment. And you don't really get that anymore. Everything has to be part of something bigger now. Everything has to have stakes and lore and a plan for the next 5 years. Spaceballs was made in an era where you could just make a comedy and let it be a comedy. Number 2.
You want some?
No.
Oh, a little hair of the dog?
No, listen, answer that thing for me.
The time capsule problem. Some of the humor feels clunky now. The gender jokes, the body humor, the ethnic stereotypes baked into certain characters, it's a time capsule of 80s sensibilities, both the good and the uncomfortable, and that's worth acknowledging because it shows how comedy evolves. What felt harmless then can feel awkward now, but it also reminds us that Spaceballs was made in a different era with different rules. And part of its charm is that it's unapologetically a product of its time. It's not trying to be timeless, it's trying to be funny, and most of the time it succeeds. Number 1, the sequel
There are laser blasts all around us. I'm scared.
that took 40 years, and now after 40 years of fans begging for a sequel, after decades of Mel Brooks teasing it and rumors swirling and nothing happening, it's finally real. Spaceballs 2 is officially in production. Mel Brooks is producing. Josh Gad is co-writing and starring. Some legacy cast members are returning. The internet is buzzing. The movie that mocked sequels is finally getting one. And honestly, that's the most Spaceballs thing that could possibly happen. It's like the universe looked at the joke and said, you know what? Let's make this real. So here's what we've learned. Spaceballs wasn't just a parody, it was a $22 million practical effects playground where jam destroyed cameras, pranks became rituals, and actors suffered for the bit. It was a movie packed with Easter eggs that rewarded obsessive fans. It accidentally predicted password culture, merchandising satire, and meta-comedy. And it became a cult classic because it was willing to be stupid, sincere, and smart all at once. Critics called it derivative. Fans call it genius. The truth? It's both. And that's why, almost 40 years later, we're still talking about it, still quoting it, still finding new details to obsess over. Next time you watch Spaceballs, look for the Millennium Falcon in the parking lot. Listen for the jokes that became memes. And remember, this wasn't just a spoof, it was a love letter to sci-fi, a middle finger to merchandising, and a time capsule of 80s comedy chaos. May the Schwartz be with you. If you grew up rewinding this on VHS, hit subscribe. I make these deep dives for you. Drop a comment with your favorite Spaceballs quote. I'll see you in the next one.